It's time now for the GemYoung WealthCast, brought to you by GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, a family-owned independent insurance and financial planning agency since 1947. Now, from their studio on Star Center Drive in Canfield, Ohio, here's the host of your program, Leo Daprile.
Welcome to the GemYoung WealthCast. This is Leo Daprile. Well, June starts our month of aging in place versus assisted living. There's a lot of choices out there, and the challenges for many of these decisions that you have to make, they come at a time when you only have sometimes days to make the decision. So I've always said, and I used to use this phrase when my first wife, Robin, passed away. I wrote a letter to my clients and said, you know, if you don't have your estate plan done correctly, if you don't have thought through the decisions, when something happens, the dominoes fall. And they fall whether you like it or not. And they fall in a way that you have to live with whatever you did or whatever you didn't do. So to start this series off, I have one of our newer estate planning attorneys that's in the GemYoung fold. I have Joe Johnson here from Friedman and Rummell. Hey, Joe.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you on the show today.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about is not just the wills and trusts. We've done enough of those shows, but I want to talk about the human part of it. And Joe, get into some of the challenges people have, because a lot of people know they need to do this, but there's a lot of people that just don't get to it.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of issues. And, you know, because it's not just, you know, it's easy to say, okay, let's talk about planning. We're financial planners. That's what we do. You're an estate planning attorney predominantly. That's what you do. So we're always used to thinking down the road.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's what we get paid for.
Right.
You know, try to predict and manage the outcomes that are happening down the road.
Absolutely.
Okay. The challenge becomes when those things aren't done or they're last minute and they're stressful. For instance, I knew there were some things wrong, and this is the human element to it, right? I knew there were some things that needed changed in my will and trust for my wife, Robin, before she passed. And I knew when her situation had become terminal, she had breast cancer, by the way. I didn't have the heart to say, look, you have to fix this. I just couldn't do it. I knew I needed to do it, but I just couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So that's why this planning is so important, because as we can sit there and say to people, okay, it's not death benefit, you know, deathbed legal work, but sometimes you have to do that. But it can look really heartless at times, because it looks like, I don't care about you, I care about your money.
Yeah.
Right? Or I care about how things shake out, and that's tough. So, excuse me, that's one of the things I want to talk about today is how to make sure you don't put yourself or your spouse in that situation.
Yeah, yourself, your spouse, and the rest of your family. I mean, a lot of times it's your children that, I mean, you get so many people that just don't want to have the conversation. I mean, me, myself, I'm an estate planning attorney. I was licensed for 3 years before I did my own estate plan. It took my wife and I adopting our daughter to actually go forward and do this, to make me realize, even after I see these cases day in and day out, and you just don't want to do it. You want to put it off. You don't want to talk about it. And you don't want to have that conversation. And even my own family, there's people that I know need to do this, and I don't want to be the one to bring it up with it, because you don't want it to seem like, hey, I want you to do this with me. I just want you to do it.
Yeah.
I want you to plan.
And this is exactly what I wanted to talk about today. What's these emotional roadblocks people have, the human condition of what stops people from completing these tasks or talking to their kids about it. Like for instance, Joe, with all of our clients, we highly recommend that they have open conversations with their children. We're having we have a couple meetings set up with clients now, because we finally got them to the point of getting their wills and trusts and so forth done, that we are actually heading up a family meeting that I'm going to facilitate, because it's emotional.
There's a dynamic there. I mean,
there's and kids always say this, kids, and when I say kids, you could be 65-year-old kid with 85-year-old parents, right? Yep. Everybody always says this. The kids always say this: hey, let them do whatever they want. It's their money. I'm like, well, okay, that's admirable that you say that, but someone's going to have to deal with this.
Yeah, let them do what they want. Well, let them write down what they want. So what they want actually happens. Because like you said, the dominoes are going to fall, whether you direct how they fall or it falls how the state has directed how it's going to fall. They're going to fall at some point. So put it down on paper.
So how do you navigate your clients through this? once you get them in. And I get and it's funny you bring this up, even family members, that need estate planning work, but you're like, well, I don't want to be I know they need it, but it's the family dynamic now that's in place, and I don't want them to think I'm trying to hawk some work off them or something like that, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is getting them through the door. Once people come through the door, I mean, our process, it's usually 2 meetings, maybe a phone call in between if we need some more information. But you're going to have a meeting. We're going to go over some things that all the answers to, right? I mean, you know about your kids, you know about your assets generally, at least. And we can talk about all those things, and I'll make a recommendation to you. And it's usually not a super difficult recommendation. A lot of people need the same core 4, 5, 6 documents. And it's just a matter of how do we set it up for that person? Maybe they have a special needs child that they haven't thought about something needs to be different. Or maybe they have a difficult child or a difficult in-law that something needs to be different for them. And it's just a sit down, let's talk about it. Tell me about everybody. Who are the players? And what assets do we have? And we can go from there. I'll do the difficult part. I just need you to tell me about you.
So how do you, another roadblock I get from clients is, I know I need to do it, but the process just overwhelms me.
Yeah.
Because Joe, what we do in our practice here, our financial planning practice here, is we start when we go through what we call a fit meeting with our clients, make sure we're fit for each other. But one of the exercises we go through is what's important to you. And it's a list of things I've created during my career of things that matter the most to people. And I make them pick 3, not any more than 3. Mm-hmm. And some really struggled to limit it to 3. And I say, well, this is why it's the financial planning process. We'll work on these 3, and then once these start to resolve, the other ones will raise in importance. Yeah. That's how we get people to say, this is just too daunting and too overwhelming. It's the old expression, you got to eat this elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yeah.
So, we try to get people to do that so that they can break it down. And it might take us, from when we start the plan in our world till we get the financial plan where it's where they need it to be. It could be a couple of years, in that process.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends. Every situation's different. Your everyday couple that's coming through, we're going to talk to them and they're going to say, we have 2 kids and we want everything to go equally. But we want one of them to be in charge, or we want one of them to have the house because they live in it or something like that. But then you have those people that have a more difficult situation. And sometimes maybe that does take a couple years, but every bite of that elephant is improving your plan. I mean, we don't have to get it all done today. We don't have to get it all done tomorrow. Let's make it better. This is going to grow and it's going to breathe. And most times we're not going to set things in stone so that it can't be changed. And we probably want to be able to change it down the road, and we're going to. Because our lives are going to change, our assets are going to change, our family is going to change. And so, it's one and done. Maybe you're going to get these documents completed, but you're not done. You're probably never done.
Right. Even mine that have done, I will say in the last 6 years, I've probably revised mine 3 times.
Yeah.
Just because we're dynamic people.
Yeah, right.
Right? But it's a lot easier to think through a specific scenario that comes up than it is the whole thing all over again.
Yeah. But the problem with having a specific scenario is that it's come up and it needs to be dealt with right now. Mm-hmm. If we can try to plan for a couple most likely scenarios, then we're much better off than that if, mom or dad just are in the hospital now, and they need to go to a facility and nobody has a power of attorney to decide which facility to go to or to sign the papers. Well, let's, run to the probate court and try to figure that out now. Whereas you could have mom or dad, or you could prompt mom and dad to come down and meet with an attorney and get that done in probably an hour or 2 of their time.
Here's why that's important, and not having things thought through with alternatives. We don't like to say options in the investment business because it infers a product. Yeah. Options contracts, stuff like that. Yep. There was a recent scenario where there was a husband and wife, each other's medical power of attorney. Mm-hmm. The wife was stage 4 ovarian cancer. The husband was having some mental health issues due to aging. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks before she went into the hospital, he went into a nursing home. Then she went into the emergency room, and she was cognizant and asked one of the family members in the emergency room to be her medical POA because she hadn't had one.
Right.
So that was like a crisis decision.
Yeah.
Put an enormous amount of work on the medical power of attorney that had to jump into action
Yeah.
with no knowledge,
Right.
no skills, because they didn't have Plan B. You know, they had. Let me rephrase it. They had a Plan B, but the document was 15 years old,
Yeah.
and that person that was Plan B was deceased.
Yep. And a lot of times that is what comes into play. And I mean, we want to have Plan A, B, maybe even Plan C, and we want to update these more than 15 years ago. I'm not asking everybody to come and let's review your plan every 6 months or every year. You maybe don't need that, but you have to know what your plan says. And if somebody's deceased, maybe we do want to come back and check that out. Or every couple of years, let's just pull it out and let's look at it and let's see, because you never know.
Joe, let me ask this question, because a lot of people think this is a lot of money, but let's take the average person that needs a will, needs their medical powers of attorneys and just their financial powers of attorneys.
Yeah.
And let's say it's Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
America. What's a price point for somebody like that to have this kind of work done?
Yeah. So usually if they come through our office, they're doing a will, those powers of attorney, a living will. And a lot of times it's transfer on death designation for their house. That's almost everybody that comes through is going to do those couple of documents. And for a husband and wife, you'd be just shy of $1,000. If you add a trust, if they have minor kids, you're usually going to do a revocable living trust as well. And then maybe you're in the $1,800 to $2,000 range.
Okay, so not scary numbers.
Not huge, no.
No, and I tell clients all the time, the two bills you should never complain about paying are your attorney bills and your CPA bills.
I got to get you talking to my client.
Because when things play out, when the dominoes fall, you see your challenge is the same challenge I have, Joe. People don't see what we did for years to come. Right. Till they're up, like in our case, I don't call it retirement. I call it disengaging from your current profession.
Yeah.
Till they get to that, because many times they're off to something else. So it's really not technically a retirement.
Yeah.
Where people imagine the old days of, stop working, sit on the rocking chair on the front
Right.
porch. We have healthy 65-year-olds and 67-year-olds and 70-year-olds that are off to do something else. So till they get to that point, till we help them establish that work optional lifestyle, it's an aspiration.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And it's a lot of hope. And they don't really see many times the behind the scenes things that we do till that all plays out.
Right. And a lot of times in my case, they don't see it at all. Because it's
true.
They've passed away or they're incompetent. And those people will sometimes say that in these meetings. Oh, I don't care. I'll be dead. And I'm like, you care about your kids. All right. I mean, you're creating a headache and an expense for them. And so where I said, maybe it's $1,000, maybe $2,000 to do this plan, it's probably 4% of your estate to go through probate. And so if you have $100,000, well, I already saved you $2,000.
Well, then let's talk about that more. It's Ohio law. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Ohio law that an attorney can charge up to 4% of the value of your estate to probate it, correct?
So the attorney fees are set by the localities. So each probate court in the state of Ohio has their own rule for the attorney fees.
Okay.
Some have to be itemized. Most are based on a computation. And it's a stepping computation, kind of like your taxes. It's 4% for the first $100,000, 3% the next $200,000, 2% of everything else. I made those up. I don't know. But each county is different. So when we talk about probate courts, we say it's the 88 states of Ohio because you're going to get different rules in each probate court.
Okay.
But the fiduciary fee is set by state law. And so the executor or the administrator is also going to get about that same amount, about 3 to 4%. So you're looking at maybe, 7 or 8% from the estate to go through probate.
So if you say, no, I don't want to spend the money for this stuff, your estate could be charged up to 8%.
Theoretically, yeah.
In Mahoney County. We'll be specific to what we know where we live.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep. And that's not even including court costs. That was attorney fees and the fiduciary fee. So the people are kind of doing the work to say. But then there's court costs. That'll be at least $200. You might have to get a bond. That might be $200. You may have to get your house appraised. It might be $200 or $1,000. I mean, it's all going to add up.
I say all the time, my answer, maybe it's because I've been around a long time, Joe, and I tend to be very direct with people and my clients. If I got pushed back like that, which I rarely do, maybe it's because of the way I approach it, but my response to them would be, then why are you saving it in the first place?
Yeah. Right.
Right? If it's going to cost that much money to get rid of your stuff
Yeah.
and that much of a hassle for somebody else, why are you bothering saving it in the first place?
Right. Yep.
Just spend it all.
Yeah. And a lot of people think, I think estate planning is a little bit of a misnomer. They say, well, I don't have an estate. I have my house and my car and some money in a savings account. That's an estate. If you own anything, you have an estate.
That's right.
If you are living, you have an estate because you need healthcare planning. I mean, there's planning to be done whether you have a lot or a little. And sometimes I'll make the argument that because you have a little, that's almost worse off. You're going to make your kids go through probate and they're going to get $2,000 at the end of it, or when they could have just went to the bank and got it out.
Right.
If they're going to do the work, at least let them, have some money at the end of it.
I would agree. And back to where we started the show, the dominoes fall.
They're going to fall.
Whether you like it or not, they're falling.
Right.
Right. Okay. So how are you navigating? See, and this is our challenge because we have some clients now in their 80s, late 80s. We're starting to have joint meetings with clients and their kids. Especially one of the things we're highly sensitive in our firm is cognitive loss as our clients age.
Yeah.
And making sure that they can still understand everything we're doing. If we start to feel or see, or they tell us that there's some sort of ongoing mental health issues, we're bringing in the children. We're also at that point too saying, now there's sort of not to be crass, but sort of a finality to what's going on.
Yeah.
That it's a good time where we pull the documents out and we're telling the same thing to the kids. You need to go with mom and dad to the estate planning attorney so that you understand, especially if they've made you the executor, of what your life's going to look like.
Yeah. What do you have to do next?
Right.
And a lot of times we'll have meetings, either that initial meeting is parents and kids together, or sometimes the parents want to talk alone, which I totally get. But don't keep it from the kids. You either have that conversation with them or let's have another conversation, like you're saying, all together, because they may have some questions that you don't have the answers to, or they, may prompt some questions that you didn't realize you should have asked.
And the other thing too is effective legal documents sometimes are challenging for the average person to read and understand.
Yeah.
And interpret.
Yep.
So, and then you're asking people that are not educated in estate planning to be an immediate expert.
Right.
So that's why I'm a big fan for our clients, especially the ones that we share, are to say that, okay, let's have these documents should be explained to the beneficiaries when everybody's of right mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And explain it to everybody. If you're keeping it from one and saying something to the other, that's when we get the fighting a lot. Dad told me this, but mom told me that, or dad told one kid this and the other kid that, or maybe told one something and wrote something different down, which is even worse. Because like we talked about at the beginning, these things are changing. And by you just telling them, hey, I'm going to make this change, that doesn't make the change. If you left it the same, it potentially could present an issue when the time comes that we're looking at that document.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure, Joe, in my 40-year career in this industry, I've seen some crazy stuff because I learned this early in my career that money changes everything.
Yep.
Everybody says it's your money, mom and dad, do what you want. We don't care. But when it's inheritance time, it changes people. And I think it's foolish for parents to think that it won't. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't, because when I say that, everybody says the same thing to me. Well, I have good kids. And that's generally true. But you don't know about spouses chirping in their ear. Yeah. There's a whole lot of other dynamics that go along with that might influence somebody's thinking.
Yep.
Where brothers might say, yeah, we're good, we'll do this, do this, but then go home and the spouse says, no, you're being ripped off by doing that.
Yep.
I've seen that.
Yeah, all the time. And the other part of that is mom or dad is potentially gone when this is happening. And there may be the glue that's holding them together, whether anybody realizes it or not. The brother and sister are really only seeing each other when they go to mom and dad's house for Christmas or birthdays or whatever other holiday. And then when mom or dad are gone, there's nothing keeping them together as much anymore. Sometimes there is, but maybe there's not. And now there's something also in between them, maybe driving them apart, and there's no buffer of mom or dad to kind of settle that issue between them. And now we see that the true colors come out because the money's at play.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about aging in place, because that's become such a big thing in our practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I mean, a lot of folks in their 60s, they've had a lot of experience with their parents going into nursing homes. And that prior generation was more of a pension generation, Social Security generation, wasn't necessarily a big savings generation.
Right.
The baby boomers learned that and started the bigger saving wave. Well, the baby boomers that are retiring now or getting to that point that aging in place is becoming a different conversation, have more means, but in the back of their head, they're saying, well, mom and dad ended up on Medicaid because it blew through all their money.
Yeah.
And that's, and a lot of people blame Medicaid for taking all their stuff. And I try to reposition that by saying, look, really, you didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And so you used your money. And after that, the government made sure you were still
cared for.
cared for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, but a lot of people feel angry about it.
Yeah.
And because they've seen maybe their inheritance go away, or mom and dad, maybe it was a pride thing that they took all their stuff and they were penniless, and they're angry about that. So when you're angry at something, as you know, that you're always looking for somebody to point the finger at, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of aging in place, is it, people wanting to do that. So from our side of it, financial planning side of it, because we get that question asked all the time about long-term care insurance and where that sets up. Through these powers of attorney, are you finding people how are you writing those to give people as much control over their life as they can?
Yeah. So my biggest thing is that I'm not huge into the concrete set Medicaid planning. So I would say 80% at least of the clients that I meet about estate planning, they come in and, they have some type of experience. Their neighbor's brother, whatever, was in a nursing facility forever, or uncle so-and-so years ago ended up on Medicaid, and they didn't leave anything to inherit, like you're saying. And they want to do a trust. And we go through and look at it, and they have, I don't know, $1.5 million, $2 million, or even less than that. And they have $7,000 in income every month. Like, you're not going to get to Medicaid. And so a lot of times it's talking about the plan that you think you need, but maybe you don't. And the other side of that is the aging in place that everybody wants to do. We're going to set up this whole plan for you, contemplating you being on Medicaid and in a nursing home for 6 months, and you're going to try like hell to stay in your house. And so we're going to set up this plan, and then you're going to do everything to foil it. And so a lot of times it's knowing what you desire, not necessarily what are you saying is worst case scenario. Yeah, we want to plan for worst case scenario, but let's also plan for what's the most likely scenario.
Got it. Believe it or not, Joe, I gotta stop here for a break, but
Okay.
hang on. We're gonna get into. I'm gonna call it fear-based planning. Let's chat more about this after the break.
Okay.
This is Leo Daprile. This is the GemYoung WealthCast. I'll be back after this break.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we make planning for your future simple by offering both insurance and wealth management under one roof. Our team helps protect what matters most while guiding you toward your financial goals, whether it's safeguarding your home, health, business, or planning for a work-optional lifestyle. With everything in one place, you get seamless support, personalized strategies, and peace of mind. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 today to schedule your fit meeting and experience all-in-one protection and planning.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we believe your financial goals deserve more than just a plan. They deserve a team. From planning for a work-optional lifestyle to managing risk and supporting your everyday needs. Our financial planners, paraplanners, and service team work together to build a strategy that truly fits your life. Planning for the future? We'll help you make that confident financial decisions and achieve lasting peace of mind. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors today, 330-533-6936, to schedule your fit meeting and start building your financial future.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we know insurance can feel complicated and overwhelming. That's why our team is here to listen, understand your unique situation, and provide solutions that work for you. From home and auto to life, plus a team dedicated just to commercial insurance, we help protect what matters most without the stress. Don't wait until an issue arises. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 to schedule your fit meeting and get the protection you need today.
Now, back to the GemYoung WealthCast, brought to you by GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors. Once again, here's Leo Daprile.
Welcome to the GemYoung WealthCast. This is Leo Daprile. If you're just joining us today, we are talking about aging in place versus long-term care decisions for the month of June. This is our first in the series. I have with me Joe D.W. Johnson from Friedman Rummell Law Firm. A great firm. We've been engaged with these folks. They work with us with a lot of our clients. So, Joe, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before the break, you were starting to talk about, and I'm going to call it, I called it fear-based planning.
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking about fear-based planning and how people plan for their biggest fear, but not necessarily the practicality of their life.
Yeah.
Which now that you say that, I see that too in what we do in the financial planning. So we try to get our arms around the fear. So for instance, if somebody's very risk adverse in the market, that comes from, we'll talk that through by saying, what's your biggest fear? Your fear is you're going to buy something and it's going to go bankrupt and you're not going to have money. I'll say that's the core of their fear, right? So like when we're in an investment portfolio, and let's say it's a high-quality investment portfolio, I say the only way for you to lose all your money is for every one of these companies to be bankrupt and completely worthless.
Yep.
And if you have this many companies bankrupt and completely worthless, money probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, you should have bought beans and bullets because the world is going down.
Right. And do those even have value? Is my argument. So when I couch it that way and people look at it and go, yeah, okay, I get it. Doesn't mean one or two companies might fail, but that also means one or two companies might be wildly successful.
Correct, yeah.
You know, that's what that's a fancy way of saying diversification.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you help people get over, especially like you said, people have that fear of, Medicaid took all mom and dad's money.
Yeah.
They died. There was no inheritance. And I hated to see that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's, they don't know the rules. So, so the biggest fear that I hear people coming in is they're going to take my house. And Medicaid does have all these rules, and I'm not going to, try to sit here and spew them all off, but they don't take your house. So, if your husband or your wife goes into a facility, you can stay in the house. They might end up with a lien against it that they won't charge on until you've both passed away. But they're paying for you and they want to be paid back. And I get that. But they're not going to come in, and there's nobody that knocks on your door and kicks your spouse out of their house and says, your other spouse is in the facility and we need to pay for it, so give us the house. First off, they don't want the house. They don't want to have to try to sell it. They don't want to go through that process. They want money. And second off, they know that they would be creating another issue by kicking your spouse out of the house. And so there is no somebody's going to take my house, really.
Sure. Okay. That's important to know because I hear that a lot from people. I'm afraid of Medicare taking everything and my spouse having nothing.
Yeah.
So, and there are spend down provisions.
Correct. Yeah.
For that person, not for the husband and wife.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, there is, they call it the community spouse. They're allowed to have a certain amount. I'm not going to give you exact numbers because I won't know for sure, but essentially they can keep half of the assets between $32,000 and $160,000. So they don't have to be destitute. And then you can, like I said, keep the house and keep a car. And at that point in your lives, you probably won't notice a whole lot of difference. You're still going to be able to keep your income that you're getting. Your incomes are going to be separate. And maybe you won't pass on as much to the next generation. But is that why you were saving your whole life, was to give it to your kids when you died? Or was it to do what you needed to do?
Right. So since we're on this track, what's the biggest mistake you see people make?
I would say the biggest mistake is one, not talking about it or not planning for it at all. They'll just end up going to a facility, and then we need to, really, they'll end up going to the hospital and say they're probably not coming home from here. Nobody's ever had this discussion or seen where to go next. And so if you want to do Medicaid planning, Medicaid has a 5-year look back. And so they're going to look at everything you did in the last 5 years. And if you gave money away in that period of time, you're going to get penalized and you're not going to get approved for Medicaid for a certain period of time. That being said, I don't know that the 5-year plan ahead is always the best option. Because like we were saying before this, you're planning for something that probably isn't going to happen. You can probably afford to be in the facility for a couple months. And most likely, I hate to say it, and you're most likely not going to be there much longer than that. You're either going to be able to come back out or you will pass in the facility.
I think the world's different. I mean, the days of people being in a nursing home from 2 to 10 years, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And I think not a medical guy, but from what I see is the improvements in medicine have kept people healthier longer. And by the time their body begins to shut down and break down, to your point, I think the average nursing home stay is right around 19 months.
Yeah.
So how we couch it with our clients is, okay, if you take, I'll make the math, $10,000 a month for nursing home stay, and I know it's more than that, but I'm making math easy.
Yeah.
And if the average is 19 months, your liability, your risk is $190,000. Do you have the assets for that? Excuse me, before we even have a long-term care discussion.
Right.
Do you have enough assets that you could pay that, and not worry about it? And a lot of these people are having these conversations in their 60s.
Yeah.
And we're saying more than likely, if you use it, and this is where we talk with long-term care products, if you use it, it might be 20 years from now.
Right.
So if you earmarked money today that says this is my back to fear-based planning.
Yeah.
And if you want to physically allocate money for a nursing home stay, you could put that amount of money or save money in a bucket to get there.
Right.
If you have the means to do it. If you don't, that's where we talk about insurance, who's really at risk for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And once we do that and kind of help people get their arms around it, but to your point, you're seeing people more like 6 to 9 months in a nursing home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the fear-based planning side of it is that you only really hear the horror stories, right? Nobody's telling you about, their uncle that was in the nursing facility for 2 months and came back out and now he's doing great. They're telling you about their uncle that was in the nursing facility for 6 years and like we said, spent every penny and was on Medicaid. It's just a matter of what we talk about. You hear more of the bad scenarios.
I think the other thing too, the longer nursing home stays tend to be with people that don't have a family support system. So when you have a family support system, they're probably keeping you out for months or maybe a year before people that don't have a support system just have to go because they can't. There's nobody to say, hey, look, I'll bring you dinner.
Right.
Hey, I'll run to the store for you.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll make sure your house is clean. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So it's an interesting question. We're going to do a show later this month with some folks from Maple Crest Nursing Home and Rehabilitation. Okay. I'll ask that question.
Yeah.
Because the interesting point, I brought this up at the top of the show, was, when people go into a nursing home, that decision is normally made within a couple of days. There's never, it's not a pre-planned decision.
Right. Sometimes it is. Typically is not. Usually if you're pre-planning, you're going into assisted living, and maybe you're making that plan ahead of time, but you can most likely afford the assisted living. It's probably half the price of the skilled nursing facility, and so if you're doing that planning ahead, that bad side of it really isn't there.
Right. And based on your income, if you can afford to do that, and a lot of times, if you're moving into those assisted livings, and you're selling your primary house, there's a lot of capital to do that.
Yeah.
I've seen people move and had clients move into assisted living facilities and thrive.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were becoming more isolated because of just the natural aging process.
Yeah.
Where just that human element of it really made sense for them to do that.
Yeah. And not only isolated from other humans, but isolated to certain areas of their homes because they can't make it up the stairs or down the stairs or to the backyard on the swing anymore. They just can't, walk those distances. So if they get into some type of assisted living facility, there's more people around, there's people to help them out, there's maybe no stairs or there's an elevator or whatever, and they're going into the courtyard and doing different things, and it's a new life.
And that's part of the aging in place philosophy. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to modify their homes. We have that discussion a lot, Joe, with how can you modify your home so that you could stay in it?
Yeah.
You know, or start thinking about another home that you can age into, you know, for more years to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's not downsizing per se, but it's switching. And I kind of think of it as like, you know, when these people are getting older, but back when they were younger, they had kids and they baby-proofed the home, and you locked all the cabinets and you didn't let the doors open and you put up the baby gate so they wouldn't go up or down the steps. Now you need, I don't know, older people proofing. You need a shower mat and a bar to get in the shower and a rail on the stairs and different things like that. You just got to think about that.
Right. And if you really want to stay, sometimes that living room becomes the master bedroom. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of that. We actually have a client. She's a great lady. She's done this show, and we've talked about it, so I'm not talking out of school. But she completely, before she retired, completely converted her home so that she could age in place. She bought a ranch.
Yeah.
She made sure everything was on the first floor, and she widened doors to anticipate that maybe she's there in a walker
or something.
Something like that, which took a lot of forethought to do it.
Yeah.
Which back to another point of talking to people and having the forethought of the planning process. You know, the biggest mistake, like you said, is not doing it, and then everybody's just got to clean up your mess. You know, and everybody gets paid to clean up the mess, right? So pay me now or pay me later, right? As people are making these decisions, we talked about that 5-year look back. I talk to my clients about that a lot with Medicaid. And I think what I try to make clear to my clients, and correct me if my information's wrong, but the money has to be, it's not just out of your name. You know, it has to be a complete gift of everything. Where you have, according to the IRS, for it to be a completed gift, you have to have no control over that money at all, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so a lot of times if we do these Medicaid asset protection trusts, the biggest thing we're putting in there is your house. And so it's usually your child that is actually creating this trust. And so child one creates the trust for the benefit of mom or dad. And what we do is we gift our house to our kid and they immediately put it in the trust. And then we have an agreement that we can continue to reside there. But you don't have this, you're not the trustee. You're just the beneficiary. You have no say on that house. You can't take a mortgage out against it. If you need the money, you can't sell it if you want to move somewhere else. Now, theoretically, your child could, but maybe you don't get along with them anymore, or maybe they pass away and now somebody else has to be the trustee, or just different things can happen. That's why we don't want to do that fear-based planning. Maybe this isn't the best choice for us, or maybe we're 55. This probably isn't going to happen within the next 5 years. Maybe we're just a little premature.
Right. That's a good point too, and that's I think I speak for most people, and I'll speak from my clients' points of view and from our listeners' points of view. Nobody wants to give up control of their life to a child, because I say things like, yes, you have a great relationship with your child. What if they get divorced? And what if that money wasn't protected in its own account?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And do you really want to go ask your kids for money to put a roof on your house, or you want to spend $20,000 to go to Italy for a month?
Yeah.
Right? Do you really want to do that?
Right. And a lot of times people will say, well, what if I just give my house to my kids now? What do you think the bigger risk is? Is the bigger risk that you go into a facility and we spend all your money and then you can't let them inherit that house? Or is the bigger risk that they get divorced or they get in a car accident and they don't have sufficient insurance and now they own your house and it's subject to their assets? Or even you guys get in a big argument, and I've seen this not a lot, but at least once before, where mom gave the house to the son to protect for Medicaid. It's in his name. And then they got in a huge argument and he evicted her. She wasn't paying rent. They didn't set up a lease. They just gave the house and he kicked her out of her own house.
Wow.
Not great, but that's what you did.
It's like what I said before, though. Money changes everything.
Yeah. And everybody says, I got great kids. Like you said, they wouldn't do that. I'm sure I didn't deal with this lady at all, but I'm sure she said the same thing at the time. You wouldn't have given it to them if they weren't great.
Well, you know what my answer to that is, Joe? Don't test them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Why test them?
Yeah, don't test the relationship.
Yeah.
Keep it clean, keep it yours, make sure you're properly insured, because there's so many other avenues that you can solve these problems with, that by having logical, sensible legal documents done, in my world, saves most of the grief.
Yeah.
Excuse me, saves most of the grief, because I see that in most cases, once everybody knows what the rules of the game are.
Yeah.
It's just like in the world, Joe. There's an old saying that 95% of the people work for 5% of the people.
Yeah.
Okay. And even though those 95%, some of them may not like it, they need the leadership. They need the guidance, right? It's no different with kids. If you have kids, don't leave anything to assumption on that. Give them the tools, meaning legal documents, so that they know what your intentions are.
Yeah.
All right. Take the time to have a family meeting. And even though I suggest, I'll tell you, Joe, there's a lot of people, it surprises me, a lot of people won't do that.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, they'll know when they need to know.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
All the time. Yeah. And I mean, look, that's your decision to make if you want to. And I would still rather you put this plan together and have it down in writing and not tell them than not do anything. But I would much more than anything rather you have that family meeting, write it all down, tell them everything, and also tell them where to find the documents. I mean, tell them that I or whatever your attorney is exists, and that if they can't find it at your house, usually we have at least a couple copies of your power of attorney. If they can't find yours, come get mine. Let them know these things so that they're not in a panic.
I know this sounds old school, but and I keep doing it because it's effective and appreciated, that every time we onboard a new client, we give them a binder. And in this binder is a whole bunch of tabs, and it's for not just the estate plan or their financial plan, it's for their legal documents, it's for their insurance policies. And we tell our clients, put everything in here, or copies of everything in here.
Right.
And we now even have a section, old school, but it works, is where to write down your passwords or where they can find your passwords.
Yeah.
Like in our business, we use security software to store passwords because of the sensitive information that so my thing is I just write down my username and password for my password protector.
Yeah.
So that somebody can go in there and get them.
And then they get all the passwords.
Then they're all there.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing in today's world. People say, well, I keep a spreadsheet on that. And that scares me because, what if somebody gets into your computer and finds your spreadsheet, then you're toast.
Yeah. Or what if nobody can get in your computer to find your spreadsheet?
Yeah, true.
Then you're just as bad off.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times we have probate estates where, mom or dad were very close to the vest, didn't tell anybody anything. And they're like, well, how do we find their assets? I'm like, start driving to banks. Take your letters of authority. Go to every bank in town. See if they had accounts there.
Seriously?
There's no magic database that says everything. I mean, there must be somewhere because the IRS knows, but there's nothing that we have any access to that we can just look up and see what assets you had.
Wow.
I mean, in fact, I just did it last week. Somebody, here's another example. Mom died, had no kids living in the state, didn't have a will. And so it has to be somebody in the state of Ohio if they're not appointed in a will. So I'm the fiduciary of their estate. Now it's costing even more because I'm the attorney and the fiduciary. But nobody knows where mom was banking. So I went to Chase, and I went to Citizens, and I went to Huntington, and I went to Farmers, and I went to Key, and every bank that I could think of that potentially mom could have driven to, and dropped off my letters of authority, said, is there any accounts here?
Did you find any?
3.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you then just start monitoring their mail for months to see statement? But then again, with online statements,
that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I guess so.
The online, that's usually, yes, what you would do. And you'd hope that, you'd start getting, in tax season, start getting some things. But if it's all online, it's tough. And we have a provision in our wills now that, you can access their financial accounts or their online financial accounts, because a lot of the companies will require that power to be specifically given to the executor before they're going to give you a username or a password.
Wow. Well, with online theft being what it is, these are safety mechanisms. Yeah. They sound like a major, major pain, but I get why they are.
Yeah, right. They should exist. I'm glad they exist, but they are a pain.
I see it in my business.
Yeah.
Like even if kids want to talk about mom and dad, and I might know the kids well. In many cases I do, but I'm still like, till I get a power of attorney, I can't really talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you.
Yep.
So, and I turn it back to them and say, look, flip the situation.
Yeah. You want me telling everybody your business?
Yeah, right. And they get it for the most part that they get it.
Yeah.
what do you think some of the misconceptions people have at aging at home?
I think a certain misconception would be that it's the safest place for mom or dad. This is the best place for them because a lot of times they're better with that social aspect, or they're better with that somebody around monitoring them. I mean, a lot of times people are starting to get dementia. We may not know it, but they're starting to wander. They're falling and they're not telling anybody, or they need that social interaction. And so a lot of times people may think that's the best case scenario. But why do we think it's the best case scenario? Is it because we don't want to pay for the facility, or is it because it's actually what's best?
Oh, that's pretty interesting, because that's where they're saying I'm currently the most comfortable.
Yeah. Comfortable isn't always
the safest choice.
Yeah. Because why are you comfortable? Is it because you're comfortable that you don't have to make a change, or because you would actually feel that comfort of the safety?
That's it. That's getting me to think, because it's just like when I talk to clients when they start talking about retirement. I said, be careful you don't romanticize it.
Yeah.
Because life still goes on and you still get up every day. So you have to really think through what your life's going to look like. And it sounds like people, from where you see, and again, you got me thinking on that people are more romanticizing the aging in place and staying at home, even when it starts to become to their detriment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's, for everybody, probably good to an extent. It's your house. You're used to it. Maybe you raised your family there and you do feel comfortable there. But at some point, all good things come to an end.
Right.
And, whether that end is abrupt because we've passed away, or we need to start transitioning to a higher level of care.
Wow. It's good stuff. Well, Joe, believe it or not, I am out of time.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Great talking with you today. A lot of good stuff. So I appreciate it. Again, I have Joe D.W. Johnson. Yeah, I saw that and I'm like, I got to make sure I put that in there. Yeah. He's with Friedman and Rummell, local attorneys, and one area of his expertise is estate plans. Joe, thanks again for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay. This is Leo Daprile. This is the GemYoung WealthCast. I'll be back after this break.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we know every financial journey is unique. That's why our team of financial planners, paraplanners, and service professionals work together to provide personalized strategies for a work-optional lifestyle, investments, and risk management. We're here to help you plan for today, protect tomorrow, and enjoy the life you've worked so hard for. Take the first step toward financial confidence. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-6936 to schedule your fit meeting today.
Hey, it's Medicare Jer here from GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors. Medicare can feel confusing, but I'm here to make it simple. With the right Medicare Advantage or Supplement plan, you can worry less about unexpected healthcare costs and focus more on enjoying life. Let's make sure you've got the coverage that fits your needs and gives you peace of mind. Call me, Medicare Jer, at GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors today at 330-533-7941 to schedule your appointment, and let's get your plan in place.
By calling this number, you will be speaking to a licensed insurance agent to answer your questions or provide additional information about Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug plans, or Medicare Supplement insurance plans. This is an advertisement for insurance.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we make planning for your future simple by offering both insurance and wealth management under one roof. Our team helps protect what matters most while guiding you toward your financial goals, whether it's safeguarding your home, health, business, or planning for a work-optional lifestyle. With everything in one place, you get seamless support, personalized strategies, and peace of mind. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 today to schedule your fit meeting and experience all-in-one protection and planning.
Now, back to the GemYoung WealthCast, brought to you by GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors. Once again, here's Leo Daprile.
Welcome back to the GemYoung WealthCast. This is Leo Daprile. Well, this is our first in our series on aging in place versus assisted living or long-term care facilities. And it was an interesting discussion with Joe today. Brought up a lot of points, and that's one of the things we like to do on the GemYoung WealthCast is give you the human perspective of what really goes on behind these decisions. I didn't want to have a show and talk about wills and trusts. We've done that enough, and you guys know what they are. But, we want to talk about implications that if you don't, and if you haven't done this work or if you haven't updated the work, of why that's so important because of the stress and the aggravation you're going to leave to other people. And it might be your spouse, might be your kids, might be somebody else. But that's only part of the story. The other part of the story is getting your arms around what scares you. You know, fear-based planning is something Joe and I spoke about today. And kind of didn't really look at things that people, you know, and we know this in the insurance business, and we talk about it, and we call it risk mitigation, risk transference, you know, or accepting full risk. You know, that's different ways to define what you do with the risk. And the other part of that is you have to really decide what's the probability of one of these events happening versus the possibility of this happening, because everything's possible, right? But what are the probabilities of something? And then deciding what's the best way to address those issues. And like Joe said, you know, having a plan that's flexible is more important, because the more rigid you get with the plan, the harder it is to sometimes color within those lines. But just in the aging in place conversation that we had, where, and I guess I never really looked at it this way, that everybody wants to age in place. I get that. I do too. So I'm no different than anybody else. But what happens when it starts to become a detriment to you being there? And what plans have you made? Does your home really ever become what you want anymore? Or did it now become a hindrance to what your life is? And did you actually begin to endanger yourself by trying to age in place too long? It's interesting that Joe sees shorter stays in nursing homes. When we get to the nursing home folks in here, we'll start asking them those questions too, to see what it is. But, you know, again, it's the possibility of going into a nursing home. We all have it. The probability, who knows, right? When's it going to happen? You know, we estimate, right? So that's what planning's all about, trying to get your arms around the fear as much as we can. And then we can plan financially to help you get there. And that's why working with people like Joe and us, we can have these conversations, because we both know our clients. We both know what they're trying to accomplish. So that all plays into how we help solve and address those issues. So this is a key component. You know, we got some interesting shows coming up on this topic, so make sure that you check them out and listen to them. Again, we're a video podcast. Check us out on our YouTube channel, or just download the podcast from anywhere you do get your podcast. This is Leo Daprile. This is the GemYoung WealthCast. Until next time.
Wealth Advisors, we make planning for your future simple by offering both insurance and wealth management under one roof. Our team helps protect what matters most while guiding you toward your financial goals, whether it's safeguarding your home, health, business, or planning for a work-optional lifestyle. With everything in one place, you get seamless support, personalized strategies, and peace of mind. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 today to schedule your fit meeting and experience all-in-one protection and planning.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we know insurance can feel complicated and overwhelming. That's why our team is here to listen, understand your unique situation, and provide solutions that work for you. From home and auto to life, plus a team dedicated just to commercial insurance, we help protect what matters most without the stress. Don't wait until an issue arises. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 to schedule your fit meeting and get the protection you need today.
At GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we believe your financial goals deserve more than just a plan. They deserve a team. From planning for a work-optional lifestyle to managing risk and supporting your everyday needs. Our financial planners, paraplanners, and service team work together to build a strategy that truly fits your life. Planning for the future? We'll help you make that confident financial decisions and achieve lasting peace of mind. Call GemYoung Insurance and Wealth Advisors today, 330-533-6936, to schedule your fit meeting and start building your financial future.
Join me every week where we talk anything and everything about your money. Have a topic you want to hear more about? Email Katie, that's Kayti, at gemyoung.com. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, and the iHeartRadio apps. Until next time, this is Leo Daprile.